What does alligator skin and bourbon have in common? Welcome back, bourbon friends. Today we're going to finish up our series on the three bourbon categories and trying to find what our preference is on that. And we're going to talk about uh, charring and what that does to whiskey and kind of dive into all of that. All right, so we're going to finish up our series on determining the three categories of bourbon and where our palate rests in that. So today I've kind of mixed things up a little bit. We're still going to go with the Maker's Mark. I've added the high rye Rabbit Hole as our high rye. And then we're still going to go with the Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. So this is our wheater, this is our high rye, and this is our traditional bourbon, or straight bourbon. I'm sorry. I had to look at that for a minute. So anyways, let's dive into this. And again, I don't know which one of these sits in here. So I'm going to taste each one, move them into the categories that I think that I want them in, and then we'll reveal what my preference was. So far, the high rye is winning. Let's see what we get into here. So I really like banana, and that has a like a ripe banana taste to it. So let's move that into first place because it's the only one we've tasted. Second one. Oh, let me cleanse my palate with some water. That one has an oakiness to it. I can taste the oak tannins, a little bitter. Um, don't like it as much as the first one I tasted. Got some caramel going on there. Nothing special, just it's good, but not as good as this just because of the banana. I like banana. That Old Forester has more of a fresh banana, but that's why I like Old Forester. A lot of their bourbons have banana notes in them. Let's go for number three. Mm, yeah, that's sweet. It's got some spice in there, like some baking spices. Um, I really like that. That's good. I'm moving that to number one. Let me just taste this again to make sure. Pretty sure this is our high rye. Yeah, caramel, caramel and that ripe banana note. So 1, 2, 3. let's start with number 3. That was the Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. Number 2 is the Maker's Mark. Got some caramel and ripe banana in that. And then our winner is the Rabbit Hole High Rye. So if we go back and look at the standings, we've got in first place High Rye, second place Wheat, third place Traditional. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So out of 6 tastings, 1, 2, 3, High Rye won 5 of those. The Wheated won 1, 2, 3, 4 of those for second place. And then the Traditional 1, 2, 3, 4. Four, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the Traditional and the Wheated kind of came in the same, but the High Rye consistently won. So I hope this helps. I hope you'll find which of the categories of bourbon you tend to like. Now, what's this going to do? How is this going to help you? How is this going to advance you in the bourbon journey? What I would say is, if somebody's offering you some bourbon and you haven't had any of the offerings and you really want to enjoy it, you'd be safe with going, I would be safe with going with a High Rye, because that's my preference. Or if they ask me, hey, do you like a wheater? Do you like a High Rye? Do you like a traditional bourbon? I would say, give me something in the High Rye category. So it just helps. It kind of gives you some credibility when you can say, this is the category that I like. That's all it does. Now, are there some wheaters out there that are better than High Ryes? Probably. We haven't even talked about proof points, charring, toasting, all of that. So with that, I'd really like to get into talking about, I got some notes here. Alligator skin. What does alligator skin have to do with bourbon? Well, we talked about how bourbon, American bourbon, has to meet specific guidelines in order to be called American bourbon. And one of those is that it needs to be charred in a new oak container. Now, we often say barrel, but it doesn't have to be a barrel. It could be a square box. It never would be, because that would be too hard to move around. Barrels are easily moved because you can tip them over and you can roll them. So that's why barrels are predominantly used in, I'm just going to go ahead and finish this off. It's pretty good. It's not the best High Rye, but it's pretty good. And so they use barrels. So what they do is they shoot a flame at about 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit into the center of the new oak barrel, and it chars it. Now, there's different charring levels. There's 1, 2, 3. Typically 4 is about as high as they go. I don't know if you can go higher. I'm sure you can. But they're charring at 2,000 degrees. Now, a char number 1, they do that for about 15 to 20 seconds. So the flame goes in, 15, 20 seconds, they turn it off, the barrel's charred. char number 2 is like 30 to 35 seconds, or 30, around 30 seconds, uh, 20 to 30 seconds. Char number 3 is 30 to 35 seconds. And then char number 4 is up to a minute, up to 60 seconds. And so when you char at 60 seconds, it really burns the inside of the barrel. And if you've ever pulled a stick out of a fire that's been in there a while, it looks like alligator skin. It's got ridges and cuts, and it's kind of squared out. And so a char 4 is called an alligator char, alligator skin char. And the reason that char 4 is usually preferred is now you've got all these ridges, and what that does is it gives the barrel more surface space. And so when the distillate is put in there to age, it's now hitting the bottom, the side, and the top of each little section of alligator skin. And so it really gives it more surface area to interact with. Now, why do they char? Well, originally they charred because they were reusing barrels. And so if they charred it, if they put fire to it, whatever was in the barrel before, and sometimes it was even pickle juice, that charring would burn that up and provide a brand new kind of a sterile environment for the whiskey to be aged. What they found was that in doing so, it added flavors and it added color to the bourbon. And so they didn't have to artificially do that. They could just do it through charring. How does it provide flavors? Well, when you char the oak, what it does is it draws out, the heat causes the caramel, the sugars to come to the surface, and then they get caramelized through the heat. And so that's where you get that caramel flavor. It also provides for some vanilla, not as much as caramel, but mainly color, that darkness, and the caramel flavor. It also brings out a lot of different flavors. There's different oaks that they use, can bring out different. You've heard of French oak staves. That brings out a different flavor. And so the charring is an important process of giving the bourbon its identity, its flavor profile. It's probably the most, other than the mash bill, the most impactful element of the aging process that happens to bourbon. So the charring is done let me back up a little bit. The first process that's happened with the oak is that it's seasoned. And what they do is they cut the oak into staves, and then they set them out. And this can happen up to a year. And what that does is that dries out the oak, so that when it kind of seals in the sugars and all that, so that when it's charred, it will draw those flavors out. And it also reduces the tannins, the bitterness. So if you drink a bourbon that's real bitter, it has a bitter oak tannin flavors, and you'll pick it up. That's probably because the oak hasn't been seasoned very long. And so I don't know how you would ever know to buy a bourbon based on the seasoning of the oak staves. That's probably impossible to do. But anyways, when you hear someone say, that's really good. When you hear someone say, "Oh yeah, it's been charred in alligator skin," or "It's been seasoned in alligator skin," I'm sorry, then now you know. Um, Whenever you hear alligator skin referred to in correlation with bourbon, you know that it's a char. It's a number 4 char. So take care, friends. Have fun, drink responsibly, and be safe. Till next time.